Stanford Prison Experiment, 1971. Imagine turning ordinary college students into brutal prison guards in just 6 days. This is exactly what happened in Philip Zimbardo's infamous Stanford Prison Experiment, which revealed the darkest aspects of human nature and the power of social roles. The setup was simple but ingenious. Zimbardo converted a Stanford basement into a mock prison and randomly assigned 24 mentally healthy students to be either prisoners or guards. The prisoners were arrested at their homes, processed at a real police station, and brought to the mock prison wearing chains and prison uniforms. What happened next shocked the world. The guards, given uniforms and sunglasses, quickly became sadistic and cruel. They forced prisoners to clean toilets with bare hands, deprived them of sleep, and used psychological torture. The prisoners either rebelled violently or became depressed and submissive. The experiment had to be stopped after just 6 days, though it was planned for 2 weeks. The most disturbing revelation wasn't the abuse itself, but how quickly normal people adapted to their roles. Even Zimbardo himself, acting as the prison superintendent, became so absorbed in his role that he failed to stop the abuse until his girlfriend intervened. This experiment fundamentally changed our understanding of human behavior, showing how situational forces and social roles can override individual personality and morality. It's particularly relevant today in understanding prison abuse, military misconduct, and corporate corruption. Milgram Obedience Study, 1961. In the shadow of the Holocaust, Stanley Milgram asked a chilling question: would ordinary Americans follow orders to hurt innocent people? His experiment revealed a disturbing truth about human obedience that still haunts us today. The setup appeared to be about learning and memory. Participants were told to administer electric shocks to a learner, actually an actor, when they made mistakes. The voltage increased with each wrong answer, marked from 15 volts to a lethal 450 volts, with labels like danger, severe shock. The results were staggering. Despite hearing screams of pain recorded, 65% of participants continued to the maximum voltage simply because a man in a lab coat told them to please continue. Many participants showed extreme stress, sweating, trembling, laughing nervously, but still obeyed. What makes this experiment profound is its revelation about authority. Most people predicted that only sadists would inflict such pain. Instead, ordinary people, when assured by authority that they weren't responsible, were capable of potentially lethal actions. The implications reach far beyond the laboratory. The study helps explain how ordinary people can participate in atrocities when ordered by authority figures, from war crimes to corporate fraud.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Little Albert Experiment, 1920. This controversial experiment showed how fear can be learned using a 9-month-old baby known as Little Albert. While ethically questionable today, it revolutionized our understanding of learned emotions and phobias. John B. Watson and Rosalie Rayner began by showing Albert various stimuli: a white rat, a rabbit, a monkey, masks, and burning newspapers. Initially, Albert showed no fear. Then they began pairing the white rat with a loud noise made by striking a steel bar. Soon, Albert began crying at the mere sight of the rat, but that wasn't all. He also began fearing similar white, fluffy objects, including rabbits and Santa Claus masks. This process, now called stimulus generalization, showed how one fearful experience could spread to similar situations. What makes this experiment particularly significant is its demonstration of emotional conditioning. It proved that our fears aren't just innate but can be learned through experience. This insight formed the foundation for understanding how phobias develop and how they might be treated. The ethical implications were enormous. The experiment helped establish ethical guidelines in psychological research, particularly regarding experiments with children. Albert's fear was never unconditioned, raising serious ethical concerns. Bobo Doll Experiment 1961. In an age when violence in media remains a hot topic, Bandura's Bobo Doll Experiment provides crucial insights into how aggressive behavior is learned through observation and imitation. The experiment used a large inflatable doll called Bobo. Children watched adults either playing peacefully or aggressively with the doll. In the aggressive condition, adults would hit, kick, and yell at Bobo. When children were later allowed to play with Bobo, those who watched aggressive behavior often perfectly mimicked the violent actions they'd observed. What's fascinating is how the children didn't just copy the exact actions, they created their own variations of aggressive behavior. This showed that they weren't just imitating, but learning general patterns of aggression. The implications were revolutionary. It challenged the prevailing behaviorist notion that all behaviors had to be directly reinforced to be learned. Instead, it showed that people, especially children, can learn complex behaviors simply by watching others. This research continues to influence debates about media violence, parenting, and education, suggesting that children learn not just from what we tell them, but from what we show them through our actions. PAVLOV'S Dog Experiment 1890s. What started as a study of digestion became one of psychology's most fundamental discoveries. Ivan Pavlov's work with dogs revealed the basic principles of how all organisms, including humans, learn to associate things in their environment. The experiment was elegantly simple. Pavlov noticed that dogs salivated not just when they saw food, but when they saw the person who usually fed them. He then systematically paired a neutral stimulus, a bell, with food. Eventually, the dogs would salivate at the mere sound of the bell, even without food present. This process, now called classical conditioning, showed how natural reflexes could be linked to new stimuli. The implications were profound. It suggested that many of our emotional responses, preferences, and even fears might be learned through similar associations. What makes this experiment particularly brilliant is its universal application. The same principles explain why we feel hungry when we smell food, why certain songs make us emotional, and how advertising works by creating positive associations with products. The discovery formed the foundation for behaviorism and influenced everything from advertising to addiction treatment. The Monster Study 1939. Named for its disturbing nature, this controversial experiment explored how negative speech therapy could affect children's confidence and speaking abilities. While ethically condemned today, it revealed powerful insights into how words can shape self-perception. Wendell Johnson selected orphan children and divided them into two groups. One group was praised for their speech, while the other was harshly criticized and labeled as stutterers, even though they spoke normally. The results were devastating. Many children in the negative group developed lasting speech problems and psychological issues. What makes this study particularly tragic is that it shows how easily children's self-image and abilities can be damaged by authority figures' words. Children who were told they had speech problems began to believe it, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. The experiment, while ethically reprehensible, provided valuable insights into the power of labeling and expectations. It demonstrates how negative reinforcement and criticism can create real psychological and physical problems where none existed before. This study continues to influence our understanding of the impact of labeling and negative feedback, particularly in educational and developmental contexts. ASCH Conformity Experiments 1951. Solomon Asch's experiment revealed a disturbing truth about human nature. Many people will deny their own judgment to conform with a group, even when the group is clearly wrong. The setup was deceptively simple. Participants had to match the length of a line to one of 3 comparison lines. The task was easy. The correct answer was obvious. The twist? Everyone else in the room who were actually actors deliberately gave wrong answers. When faced with this unanimous but incorrect group opinion, 37% of participants chose to conform, giving obviously wrong answers. What's particularly fascinating is what happened in participants' minds. During post-experiment interviews, some claimed they actually saw the wrong line as correct, showing how social pressure can alter not just our behavior, but our very perceptions. Others knew they were wrong but conformed to avoid standing out. This experiment has profound implications for understanding peer pressure, groupthink, and social influence. It helps explain everything from fashion trends to political movements, and why people might stay silent even when they know something is wrong. The study remains relevant today, especially in the age of social media, where group pressure can be even more intense and widespread. The Marshmallow Test 1972. The marshmallow test might seem like a simple study about children resisting temptation, but it revealed profound insights about self-control and life success. It's arguably one of psychology's most powerful predictive experiments. Walter Mischel placed children around age 4 in a room with a marshmallow and gave them a choice: eat it now, or wait 15 minutes and get 2 marshmallows. The real study wasn't about the marshmallow, it was about following these children for decades afterward. The results were stunning. Children who waited for the second marshmallow generally had better life outcomes, higher SAT scores, lower obesity rates, better social skills, and more successful careers. They even showed different brain activity patterns in adulthood when practicing self-control. What makes this study particularly insightful is how it revealed different strategies for self-control. Successful waiters didn't just use willpower, they used distraction techniques, like singing songs or turning away from the marshmallow. This suggests self-control can be taught and improved. The implications extend far beyond childhood. It shows how delayed gratification affects everything from financial planning to relationship success. Blue Eyes, Brown Eyes Exercise 1968. In the wake of Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, Jane Elliott conducted what became one of the most powerful demonstrations of how discrimination affects human behavior and performance. She divided her all-white class based on eye color, declaring one day that blue-eyed people were superior, giving them privileges and praising them, while criticizing brown-eyed students. The next day, she reversed the roles. The results were dramatic and disturbing. Students in the superior group became arrogant and performed better on tests and assignments. The inferior group became timid, performed poorly, and even began accepting negative labels about themselves. When roles reversed, so did their behavior and performance. What makes this exercise particularly powerful is how quickly discrimination affected even young children who had been friends the day before. It demonstrated how arbitrary privileges based on physical characteristics can create real psychological differences. This exercise, while controversial, remains one of the most effective demonstrations of how discrimination works and continues to be used in diversity training worldwide. HARLOW'S Monkey Experiments, 1958. Harry Harlow's experiments with infant monkeys shattered prevailing theories about parent-child attachment and revealed the crucial importance of comfort and affection in development. He separated infant monkeys from their mothers and gave them two artificial mothers, a wire mother providing milk and a cloth mother providing no food but covered in soft terry cloth. Contrary to the behaviorist belief that infants only attach to mothers for food, the baby spent most time clinging to the cloth mother, only visiting the wire mother when hungry. When frightened, the infants would run to the cloth mother for comfort. Monkeys raised with only wire mothers showed severe psychological disturbances, including inability to socialize or parent their own offspring. Those with cloth mothers fared better, but still showed deficits. What makes these experiments particularly significant is how they revolutionized our understanding of attachment. They proved that comfort and contact are as crucial as food for healthy development, leading to major changes in childcare practices and parenting theories. The ethical concerns raised by these experiments also helped establish modern animal research guidelines. The Good Samaritan Experiment, 1973. This clever study examined what makes people help others in need, revealing that our moral behavior often depends more on circumstances than character. Darley and Batson asked seminary students to prepare a talk on the Good Samaritan parable. Some were told they were running late, others that they had time. On their way to deliver the talk, they encountered a person actor slumped in a doorway, clearly in distress. The results were ironic. Students who were rushing to give a talk about helping others were far less likely to stop and help than those who weren't in a hurry. Even these future priests, despite their presumed ethical training and the relevant sermon topic, often walked right past someone in need when they felt time pressure. What makes this experiment profound is how it challenges our assumptions about moral behavior. It suggests that situational factors like being in a hurry often override personal values in determining whether we help others. This has important implications for understanding moral behavior and designing environments that encourage helping others. Cognitive Dissonance Experiment, 1959. Festinger's experiment revealed how humans deal with the psychological discomfort of holding contradictory beliefs or behaviors. showing we often change our attitudes to justify our actions. Students were asked to perform boring tasks and then tell the next participant that the tasks were interesting. Some were paid $20, others just $1. When later asked their genuine opinion about the tasks, those paid $1 rated them as more enjoyable than those paid $20. This paradoxical finding revealed something fundamental about human psychology. Those paid less needed to justify their dishonesty by convincing themselves the tasks were actually interesting. Those paid more could justify their lie through the payment. What makes this experiment particularly insightful is how it explains many everyday behaviors, from post-purchase rationalization to political belief formation. It shows how we often change our beliefs to match our actions rather than the other way around. The theory continues to influence understanding of decision-making, attitude change, and personal identity.